2024 has showed us that Ferrari is the only real challenger to the Red Bull team. The RB20 doesn't have the same advantages it had in 2023. And the SF24 has completely reversed what the platform was for Ferrari on the SF23. These key differences and its aggressive upgrade plan that's upcoming soon is why I believe that Ferrari will challenge them in the near future, with both Carlos and Charles saying that Red Bull is catchable and they will catch them soon considering what's coming for the car. Before I get into the bigger part of the video, wanted to thank you guys for supporting the channel like you guys do. It truly means the world seeing you guys support, and the community we have is great. The comments, how you guys interact with each other, how you guys interact with me is just purely amazing. So thank you so much for the support. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot per usual. And thank you for support yet again. Let's get into the bigger part of this Ferrari video. Ferrari showed us that within a 6-month change, you can gain up to 5/10 on the fastest team from track to track. The Ferrari car last year in 2023 really struggled on Suzuka. Yes, they brought an upgrade for Leclerc's car to help with the floor, but they were nowhere near competitive with even McLaren and Red Bull. While they still had the qualifying pace, in race, they were always far behind. Their tire wear this year is actually the best on the grid, shown in Suzuka and throughout the season so far in 2024. This has made it a struggle for Charles Leclerc, and it seems like Carlos has a better grip on the car currently in qualifying. This probably has to do with driving style, and Leclerc will get up to date on this, of course. And he is the best qualifier on the grid when given the car that he wants to perform with. Both Ferrari drivers are extremely good at what they do. It's the best pairing, I feel like, on the grid, and they really get the most out of the car, showing why they are the team that can bring it to Red Bull. So far, they've maximized every single result they've had this year. They've had 4 races, they've had 4 podiums, 1 victory, and 2 fastest laps, which is just incredible to say considering what a 2023 season they had, the ups and downs, and how 2023 they started on the back foot so severely, but ended up being P2 by the end of it realistically with their car. They're listening to their drivers. Leclerc was actually the one that imposed the one-stop strategy, which he was able to have excellent tire management. And some people are stating that Leclerc never really had this type of tire management. It's something that he's recently gained. Well, that's not really true. Leclerc has been a supreme driver on the tires for a very long period of time, and while in qualifying he gets every last bit out, he doesn't drive the same in the race. I actually made a whole entire driving style video talking about the differences between his qualifying pace and race pace, and how driving styles changed throughout the race because you need to be more consistent with the car. He was able to keep those mediums alive for more than 5 to 6 laps than anybody else on the grid, and the hards he made him survive till the end and almost ended up bagging a podium because of it. Carlos was actually catching up to Perez, and if he didn't have to go through the traffic, through the strategy, there was an actual chance at P2 here, and the fight was very much on for a second place on the podium. If Leclerc didn't start far behind, he probably could have gotten a podium as well, and we could have seen another Ferrari 2-3 maybe, possibly, with Max leading at the top. Fred Vasseur has stated that the higher temperatures have helped them. That's at least what he is a little precautious about, and thinks that China will be a different opportunity to test out the colder conditions because the weather over there will be a bit colder than the first 4 races we've had. If we actually look at FP3 times, the Ferrari car was still the fastest, but we don't know the fuel loads, so it's really hard to gauge on how fast Ferrari was in comparison to Red Bull. It was about a 5/10 difference, so you can already see that the fuel loads were different, and the leash was still put on the RB20 before letting it go in qualifying and the race. It did offer us an extreme preview of how Suzuka, a track with super high tire wear, Ferrari was able to come out on top on the Red Bull. And the Red Bull's tire wear actually isn't as dominant as it used to be in 2023. That was an advantage that they had, which was pretty much locked in for 2023 and 2022. That's where the car started to suffer after the TD directive was installed in 2022. If we look here at tire degradation in Japan in 2024, you can see Leclerc is at the top and Sainz is P7. If you look at the 2 Red Bull drivers, they're 10th and 12th. Now, why is it such a disparity between Leclerc to, let's say, Perez? Well, looking at this graph and without context, you wouldn't know that Leclerc had that one-stop strategy, so obviously he had to conserve a lot more than anybody else did on the grid. Magnussen ran kind of the same strategy as Leclerc as to why he is P2 there. So you should realistically look at Carlos Sainz when you're trying to see on pace, on merit for tire wear, because the same strategy was installed from Sainz and Verstappen. And as you can see on the graph, Sainz is losing about a 10.5 per lap, while the Red Bull is losing a 10.2. So it's not a huge difference, but it's enough to say over a race that the Ferrari is the better car. And as you can see, it's pretty close between everybody except for Stroll, who ran a 3-stop strategy and was burning the tires consistently. But Ferrari is there, and this has been an ongoing trend in Australia. It was an ongoing trend even in Bahrain, just by the slightest. And in Saudi Arabia, they had the best tire wear as well. At first, we thought it was something to do with traffic and the Red Bull being stuck between a couple of cars. But actually looking at it on merit, the Ferrari car is the quickest off of race pace. The team is getting aggressive upgrades really soon. Carlos Sainz has already stated that within the first third, Red Bull will be ahead, but that's where they expect to be combined with them. The Red Bull brought big upgrades here to Japan with a little cooling outlet, which is going to the rear part of the car, and we saw what the vertical outlet did. Now Ferrari also has this vertical outlet, and while both of them do have that vertical outlet, they do perform differently. As we can see in the picture, the Red Bull RB20 outlet that goes towards the rear part of the car is there for that cooling purpose, but also to get it to the rear beam wing and give it that straight line speed, while the vertical outlet on the Ferrari car is a S-duct. And there are ways that they could transform this into something similar to what the RB20 has. And Ferrari has said they've tried looking into that overcut setup that the RB20 has on its current car, but said there were losses in the simulator in comparison to what the RB20 has found. We do know that aggressive changes are coming to that side pod inlet, pushing it up. I guess we can expect a bigger undercut in the car as well, and maybe a bigger slide pod towards the rear end of the car, because every team kind of has it installed and Ferrari is going down an aggressive route. The team brought nothing here in Japan, was still very competitive with the Red Bull car, only about 3.5 tenths off in complete race pace, even with traffic and so on. So this aggressive package that is going to be announced and shown in Imola will be when we see the true pace of this car and whether they can compete with Red Bull. Off of the 4 races we've seen so far, this team has not come to play. Vasseur is very serious about getting race wins. It's not just about the podiums, it's about being a serious contender consistently. And Leclerc and Sainz have a completely different mindset. The strategy has been on, the pit stops have been on. Actually watching Ferrari reminds me a little bit of Red Bull. Both those teams are so much in unison, and they are currently the 2 best teams right now in Formula 1. Aston Martin is doing really well. I think McLaren is doing really well. Mercedes is a bit off. But these 2 teams, to me, show what it means to be a Formula 1 team, being perfected in pretty much everything. Trusting your drivers, going with aggressive strategies, and overall a killer mindset going into these races, which is something I love to see as a Formula 1 fan. What are your thoughts on Ferrari catching Red Bull? We really thought 2024 was going to be a blowout, but Ferrari is showing us that they have the pace and the confidence to catch this team within this regulation period, and 2025 will be even closer. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please leave a like, subscribe, it'd mean the world, and peace.